My husband Leo and I have been married for 3 years, and we haven't been able to conceive a child. I thought there was something wrong with my body, so I have been seeking medical advice and treatment. Once I heard his little green plum say, "That woman is just a fool," completely deceived by Leo, knowing nothing at all. Leo married her only because she was of use to him. He really thought Leo liked her. Don't dream. Before I had the chance to feel heartbroken, Cynthia pushed me into the water, and Leo jumped in without hesitation. But the direction he swam towards was Cynthia. At that moment, my heart turned completely cold. Dear, don't be so petulant. The person I love the most has always been you. In the room, Leo's voice was low and gentle, carrying a tone of affectionate persuasion. Don't try to sweet-talk me. You've been with her for so long, and you still haven't cut ties with her. I think you just don't want to be with me properly. On the other end of the phone, Cynthia's voice was sharp and tinged with a hint of sulking. Leo sighed helplessly, his voice full of indulgence. You know it's not that easy to divorce Nina. I have to take it slow. I can't let her get suspicious, otherwise, if things get messy, it won't be good for either of us. So when will you be able to handle this? I don't want to keep sneaking around in this relationship. I want to be open and public about being with you, letting everyone know that I am the one you love the most. Cynthia pressed on relentlessly. Leo paused, seemingly pondering his words, then softly said, "Soon, just give me a little more time. I promise I will divorce her within 3 months. Then we can travel, go to the Maldives that you've always wanted to visit, okay?" That was more like it. If you dare to deceive me, I won't let you off. Cynthia's tone finally softened a bit. How could I bear to deceive you? Don't you understand my love for you? She is merely a substitute, only you are the one I want to spend my life with. Leo's voice grew increasingly gentle, as if it could drip with water. I stood outside the closed door, my fingers tightly gripping the hem of my clothes, my joints turning pale. Every word that came from inside felt like icy needles, piercing straight into my heart. His gentle tone, at this moment, had become the sharpest mockery. It turned out that all the tenderness and love he gave were merely a carefully orchestrated deception from the very beginning. I was nothing more than a pawn in his game to achieve his goals, and those memories I once cherished so deeply became mere props in his scheme to deceive me. With a creak, the door opened, and he saw me standing at the entrance. A flicker of panic crossed his face, but he quickly regained his composure. His body tense, he asked, "Nina, why didn't you go to work?" Even if Leo hides it well, I can still clearly feel the stiffness and panic coming from him. I took a deep breath, trying to make my voice sound calm. "It's a holiday today, resting at home." He nodded, walked over wanting to hug me, but I instinctively dodged. His movement paused for a moment, seemingly unaware of my oddity. "Nina, since you're resting at home, sit down and take a break. I'll go to the kitchen and make you something delicious." He forced a smile, but there was a hint of barely noticeable tension in his eyes. Without waiting for my response, he turned and quickly walked toward the kitchen. I stood quietly in place, my gaze tightly following his figure, my heart filled with mixed emotions. The conversation he had with Cynthia echoed continuously in my mind. Those sweet yet piercing words felt like thorns, stabbing me painfully. Before long, the sounds of Leo busying himself came from the kitchen. I walked over, wanting to hear what else he might say. Leo lowered his voice, his tone filled with urgency. "Hey, baby, I almost got caught by that woman just now. Be careful lately, don't call me again. If there's anything, just send a text. You mustn't let her find out about us." On the other end of the phone, Cynthia's voice was sharp and filled with dissatisfaction. You only know how to worry about her, what about me? When will you completely break up with her?" Leo's voice softened, carrying a tone of persuasion. "Baby, don't make a fuss. I'm trying to figure things out, just give me a little more time. Once I handle this, we can be together openly." Cynthia's tone softened slightly. "All right then, but don't you dare lie to me. If I find out you're still in touch with her, I won't let you off the hook. Don't worry, baby, you are the only one in my heart. I won't say more for now, I still have to cook for her, or she might get suspicious. After saying that, he hurriedly hung up the phone. I listened to Leo continuing to busy himself in the kitchen, and the hatred in my heart grew wildly like weeds. The man who once was gentle and considerate in front of me was now behind my back, whispering such intimate words to another woman, while also being on guard against me. I sat helplessly against the wall, tears rolling down my cheeks. This is the man I have loved wholeheartedly in marriage for 3 years. Before long, Leo came out of the kitchen, a smile on his face. "Nina, the food will be ready soon, just wait a little longer." I raised my head and looked at him, trying hard to squeeze out a smile. "Good, thank you for your hard work." He seemed unaware of my oddness, nodded in satisfaction, and turned to walk into the kitchen. His tenderness and deep affection didn't seem fake. I couldn't help but smile wryly, such superb acting, truly impressive. Soon, Leo brought out several dishes from the kitchen, the aroma of the food wafting through the air, but my stomach churned, feeling that the scent was incredibly pungent. Leo wore that hypocritical smile on his face. "Nina, come and try it, see if it suits your taste." I slowly got up, walked to the dining table, and sat down, my gaze falling on those dishes that were rich in color, aroma, and flavor, yet I had no appetite at all. Leo sat across from me, eagerly serving me food. "Eat more, you've lost weight recently." I mechanically took the food he picked and placed it in the bowl, but I didn't move my chopsticks. Leo seemed to notice my unusual behavior, slightly furrowing his brows, asking, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" I shook my head expressionlessly. "It's nothing, just a bit tired." Leo nodded and didn't ask any more questions. After a moment of silence, he put down his chopsticks, cleared his throat, and his eyes flickered for a moment. "Nina, I want to discuss something with you." I looked up at him. "What is it?" "You see, we have been married for 3 years, and life is getting better and better." Leo's expression looked a bit unnatural. "Don't you have another villa under your name? It's just sitting there empty, and you still have to pay property fees and all that. Why not sell it? What do you think?" I quietly looked at him, a cold smile in my heart, realizing that he was actually plotting to sell my villa. I forced myself to suppress the disgust in my heart and tried to make my tone sound calm. "This is not a trivial matter. Why did it suddenly come to mind to sell it?" He chuckled twice. He just felt that keeping it was of no use, selling it could bring back some funds, which we could use for other investments, or to exchange for a bigger and better one. After a while, I looked up and met his eyes. "I'll think about this matter again. After all, it's not a trivial issue." A flicker of displeasure crossed his face, but he quickly regained his smile. "Okay, think it over, but don't take too long. The housing market is volatile right now, so it's better to make a decision sooner." I didn't say anything more, just silently nodded and continued to look at the food in the bowl, unable to eat a single bite. He was still talking endlessly about all the plans after selling the villa, but I couldn't hear a word, my heart and mind filled with disappointment and hatred towards him. I really didn't want to face his hypocritical facade any longer, so I forced myself to remain calm. Taking a deep breath, he said, "I have a meeting at the company tomorrow, so I need to prepare the materials in advance. I might be busy until very late tonight." Leo was slightly taken aback, but then a smile spread across his face again. "Don't tire yourself too much. If you need any help, just call me." I nodded perfunctorily, got up, and quickly walked towards the study, slamming the door shut with a bang. The air in the study was a bit stuffy. I leaned against the door, closed my eyes, and tried to calm the surging emotions within me. After a while, I walked over to the bookshelf, took down the album that held countless memories, and slowly opened it. The first page of the album is a photo of Leo and me on our first date in the park. In the photo, he looks at me gently, a faint smile on his lips, while I am blushing and filled with sweetness. The note beside it was written by me. "On this day, I met the person who loves me the most in the world, and I hope that every day in the future will be spent with him." Flipping further back, there are photos of our trip to the beach together. He held my hand as we ran on the sand, the sunlight shining on us, casting shadows of happiness. The note reads, "The time spent with him is filled with joy in every moment, may time forever stay in this moment." There are also the photos of us celebrating birthdays and anniversaries together, each one accompanied by the heartfelt words I wrote, capturing those beautiful and warm moments. Looking at these photos and comments, my eyes gradually turned red, and tears uncontrollably swirled in my eyes. Once, I was so convinced of our love, believing he was my destined one, the person who would accompany me through my life. But now, reality is so cruel, his betrayal has shattered all my fantasies. Those once sweet memories now feel like sharp blades, piercing my heart. I held the album tightly, tears falling in big drops onto the photos, blurring those once happy smiles. It turns out everything was a lie, it turns out you have been deceiving me all along. I murmured to myself, my voice filled with despair and pain. I continued flipping through the album when my hand suddenly stopped. A group photo in front of me made my heart tighten sharply. In the photo, besides the beaming smiles of him and me, there is a woman next to us, that is Cynthia, the woman I just heard him speak affectionately about on the phone. This photo was taken at a friend's gathering, and at that time I was completely unaware of the affair between them. I carefully looked at the photo and noticed that his body was slightly leaning towards Cynthia, while I was still foolishly leaning beside him, my eyes filled with happiness. The note next to the album reads, "I had a great time with my friends today, and I hope our lives can continue to be this happy in the future." How ironic it is that I once looked forward to the future, unaware that in a corner I couldn't see, he and Cynthia had already gotten together. "Alright, you really have kept me in the dark." I gritted my teeth and said softly, tears streaming down my face once again. I collapsed into the chair, my hands clutching my head, my heart a tumult of emotions. The beautiful memories of the past have now become knives stabbing at me. And Cynthia, this woman who suddenly barged into my life, made my once happy world collapse in an instant. The next day, I called a mutual friend and casually mentioned wanting to organize a reunion for our college classmates. The friend readily agreed to help with the invitations. At the agreed time, I arrived at the gathering place on time. Friends arrived one after another, and laughter filled the entire room. Finally, Cynthia appeared. When she saw me, a hint of surprise flashed in her eyes, but she quickly returned to normal, wearing a polite smile on her face. "Ah, I really didn't expect to see you here too." Cynthia walked over, her voice sweet and sticky. I smiled back, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Yes, it's been a long time since we gathered, so I thought I'd invite everyone out to have some fun." I watched the time pass second by second indoors, but Leo still hadn't arrived. The laughter and joy around me felt particularly noisy at that moment, so I made an excuse to go outside for some fresh air. As soon as I stepped outside, I heard a conversation coming from not far away. Instinctively, I slowed my pace and looked in the direction of the sound, only to see Leo's brother standing together with Cynthia. "Hey, what's going on between you and Leo? Are you still not together? I've heard he's quite attentive to that person at home, so you'd better hurry up." Leo's brother leaned in a bit, his tone laced with gossip. Cynthia's expression changed slightly, a hint of displeasure flashing in her eyes, but she quickly regained her smile. So what if Leo cares about her? He still has me in his heart. That woman is just a fool, completely deceived by him, knowing nothing at all." "Haha, that's true. With your charm, how could he not be moved? That woman, she looks like she has no real ability, just knows how to put on a show." Leo's brother echoed in agreement, his face full of disdain. Hearing these words, my heart sank suddenly, and anger surged instantly. In their eyes, I was just such a foolish and easily mocked existence. I clenched my fists tightly, my nails digging into my flesh, yet I felt no pain. "You all seem to be having a great time chatting." I watched them, a mocking smile curling at the corners of my mouth. What a pity, talking bad about others behind their backs is not a glorious thing. Leo's brother's face turned red, and he stammered, unable to say a word. Cynthia bit her lip, a flicker of hatred flashing in her eyes, but she still forced herself to appear calm. "We're just chatting casually, don't misunderstand." "Misunderstand?" I scoffed and turned to leave. I had barely stepped out of the hall when Leo hurried over. Nina, why are you leaving so soon after arriving? Seeing this scene, Cynthia immediately ran over crying, grabbing Leo's arm. She wore a pitiful expression on her face, with her eyes slightly reddened, as if she had suffered a great injustice. Leo, I know you have a good relationship with your sister-in-law. I really didn't mean to say anything about her, I just spoke without thinking. Can you please tell her not to be mad at me? Meanwhile, brother Leo hurriedly came over, his face filled with awkward smiles, his eyes flickering uncertainly. While trying to smooth things over, he said, yes, we were just chatting casually, nothing else meant by it. Sister-in-law, please don't take it to heart. Cynthia didn't mean any harm, she's just straightforward and speaks without thinking. I looked at their pretentious demeanor and felt a wave of disgust. I coldly said, stop pretending in front of me. I know very well what you're thinking, and you too. I turned to look at Leo's brother. Stop helping her speak here, I can see through your little thoughts, can't I? Cynthia's lips trembled slightly, and a hint of panic flashed in her eyes. Sister-in-law, I really know I was wrong. You have a big heart, so please forgive me this once. I promise I won't make the same mistake again. Forgive? I let out a cold laugh. Forgiving you is not something I want to do. A cold and slightly impatient voice from behind me belonged to Leo. Look, even Cynthia made a mistake, so don't dwell on it. This situation is also your team's, so let it go. I nodded, I was tired and decided to head back first. Just a few steps out, Cynthia called me, her voice gentle yet firm. Sister-in-law, I have something to say to you. A hint of vigilance flashed in my eyes, but under the gaze of the crowd, I still slowly walked over and said expressionlessly, Cynthia, what do you want from me? She held my hand, appearing affectionate on the surface, but secretly applying pressure, leading me to the edge of the pool. I took a deep breath, and Cynthia suddenly raised her voice and said, Sister-in-law, there are some things that I feel it's necessary to clarify in front of everyone today. A hint of panic flashed in my eyes as Cynthia deliberately put on an excited expression and stepped closer. I instinctively took a step back, and Cynthia seized the opportunity to pretend to lose her balance, gently pushing me. Amidst the gasps of the crowd, I let out a scream and fell into the water. Leo was originally in the crowd, and upon seeing this scene, his expression changed drastically in an instant. Without hesitation, he leaped into the water and swam towards me. Cynthia saw Leo jump down, a flicker of panic and unwillingness flashing in her eyes, and she jumped into the water after him. Leo swam to my side, just about to reach out and grab me, when he saw Cynthia struggling in the water. Help! Cynthia shouted in despair. Leo was slightly taken aback, hesitated for a moment, but ultimately turned and swam towards Cynthia. Seeing Leo swim over, Cynthia weakly said, Leo, hurry and save my sister-in-law, she can't swim. Leo swam desperately towards Cynthia while saying, she can swim, I'll save you first. She won't die. Just as I was rescued by the lifeguard next to me, I happened to hear Leo say these words. After he carefully rescued Cynthia, he immediately took out his phone to call an ambulance. Even though I had anticipated this for a long time, hearing those words with my own ears still made my heart ache painfully. When I arrived at the hospital, the doctor said, Nina, you've been in the water too long, you've developed a high fever, your temperature is 42 degrees, and your family needs to take care of the hospitalization procedures for you. I casually replied, thank you, doctor, I'll take care of it shortly. I think Leo must be by Cynthia's side right now. After a while, Leo slowly walked into my hospital room. Nina, Cynthia can't swim, so I'll save her first, after all, I'm the only one by her side right now. You're okay now, right? You should rest well, I'll go buy you some food. I closed my eyes, not wanting to see him. Ever since I heard him talking to Cynthia, I had no expectations of him anymore. I took out my phone, opened the contacts, and said, Mr. Jiang, about the overseas project the company mentioned last time, we still need one more person, right? I've thought it through and I've decided to go. The ringtone suddenly rang, and seeing my best friend's name on the screen, my eyes instantly filled with tears. My best friend's anxious voice came through, "Baby, why did you suddenly go abroad for work? What on earth happened?" Hearing the familiar voice of my best friend, the emotions I had been holding back suddenly burst forth, and tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. I choked back tears as I told her everything about Leo's betrayal, Cynthia's interference, and all that had happened on the day of the party. There was a brief silence on the other end of the phone. Then, my best friend's angry shouts erupted like a barrage of firecrackers. "That bastard, how could he treat you like this? You used to love him so much, gave him so much, and yet he did something so despicable. And that shameless Cynthia, what a cheap woman, specifically ruining other people's relationships." My best friend's angry scolding slightly released the grievances in my heart. As I listened to her speak up for me, the tears flowed even more fiercely. "Baby, don't be too sad. This kind of man isn't worth your tears. You're so outstanding, it's his loss for leaving you." My best friend's tone gradually softened as she began to comfort me. I wiped my tears, sniffed, my voice trembling with sobs. "Thank you, dear, I'm so glad to have you here. Right now, I just want to work hard and forget about these unhappy things." "Yes, that's how it should be. Focus all your energy on work, make yourself stronger. When you come back, let's go meet better men and make that jerk regret it." It takes a few days to handle the company's procedures, so I took advantage of this time to take care of everything that needed to be dealt with. When I returned home from the hospital, I saw Leo coming towards me. I directly walked past him. "I'm sorry, Nina, I didn't pick you up from the hospital, I won't do it again next time. In a few days, I'll take you out to play, you've always wanted to go to the amusement park, right? In a few days, I'll go with you. I've been too busy and haven't taken you out, I'm really sorry. In a few days, I'll take you, really, trust me." I casually replied. "Anyway, in a few days, I won't be in the country anymore, so you can go with whoever you want." Leo heard my answer and thought I had already forgiven him. "Nina, you are so wonderful. To be your husband is truly a blessing in 3 lifetimes. I will treat you well, I will treat you well for a lifetime." I didn't want to see Leo's expression. "Well, I'm going to sleep now." A few days later, I appeared at the airport. The phone rang, showing a call from Leo. "Nina, I'm sorry, something suddenly came up at the company today, I can't go." "Don't worry, next time, I will definitely accompany you." I listened to Leo's voice on the other end of the phone and couldn't help but find it hilarious. "All right. I knew Nina understood me the best, when I get home, I'll buy you your favorite cake." I hung up the phone and opened the messaging interface, where there was a text message from Cynthia. "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry, I have a bit of a cold today, Leo stayed behind to take care of me, Leo must have told you too, I'm really sorry, sister-in-law." Below is a picture of Leo pouring her water. It's really ironic. When Leo returned home and saw the house empty, he thought I was working late, so he called me. After several attempts, it showed that the number was not in service. When Leo saw this scene, his expression was bewildered. How could Nina's phone be a dead number? Clearly, this morning. Leo immediately took out his phone and called my best friend Amy. "Hey, if you have something to say, say it. If not, I'm hanging up." Amy looked at the call from Leo and just felt unlucky. "Do you know what's going on with Nina's phone? I can't get through, it shows that the number is not in service." Amy heard Leo's voice, and her blood surged with anger. "Don't you know? Nina was hospitalized a while ago, didn't you know that?" "I know that Nina fell into the water that day, but I had to stay and take care of Cynthia, so I didn't go to see her." Before Leo could finish his sentence, Amy interrupted, saying, "Leo, do you care if Nina dies? She had a high fever of 42 degrees that day, she almost died, do you know that? She has been delaying going to the hospital because of her stomach illness, and after the last time she had a high fever, her condition worsened. The doctor told Nina that she doesn't have much time left, didn't you know?" Leo heard Amy's words, his face pale, his hand holding the phone trembling uncontrollably. How is that possible? You must be lying to me. Tell me, where did Nina go? Crazy person, why are you yelling at me? You brought this upon yourself, don't call me again, it's really bad luck. After Amy finished speaking, she hung up the phone and pressed her hand against her chest. Leo didn't believe what Amy said at all and called his assistant to check my whereabouts. In the end, the assistant told him that my last known location was the western suburbs cemetery. Leo heard his assistant's words and slumped directly onto the sofa. Impossible. Impossible. Nina loves me so much, how could she leave me? How could it be? Leo sent his assistant to the western suburbs cemetery to look for clues. Leo learned that there was an additional tombstone in the western suburbs cemetery. It bore the name Nina. The next day, Leo arrived at the western suburbs cemetery, looking at the photo and name on the tombstone. His face was filled with disbelief. He had just spoken to me on the phone yesterday, so why had it turned into a tombstone in the blink of an eye? Impossible. Impossible. Alive, I want to see the person. Dead, I want to see the body. I don't believe she's really dead. Leo had his assistant contact private detectives and the police to look for me for a long, long time. They found no trace of me. During this time, Leo stayed every day in the house where we lived together, not going anywhere. That day, Cynthia knew Leo was frantically looking for me, so she came to my door. What are you doing? Do you like that bitch Nina? Didn't you say you only loved me? What are you doing like this now? You're talking nonsense. Leo looked at Cynthia, shaking his head. Nina loves me so much, how could she possibly leave me? Besides, she has said that she would only love me, and it is absolutely impossible for her to leave me. Cynthia suddenly thought of something and said in panic, do you think Nina might already know about you and me, know that you've been using her just for her money? No way, I've hidden it so well, it can't be. Leo's voice grew softer and softer. He had actually doubted whether I had known something all along. But then he thought, if I had known, with my personality, I definitely wouldn't have done nothing. Seeing Leo like this, Cynthia was worried that Leo really had feelings for me. Leo, could it be that you? No way. I only used Nina, I didn't even let her get pregnant, how could I? By the end, Leo could hardly continue speaking. In the following 5 years, Leo occasionally looked for news about me. But all he received was one piece of news: I had fallen ill and passed away. With everything happening in the country, I have been working and living abroad for almost a month now. No one knows that I went abroad, except for my best friend Amy. The phone rang, and I saw on the screen that it was Amy calling. Hello, baby, you have no idea how Leo has been acting like a detective and a police officer just to find you. It's been quite a commotion. It made me think Leo loves you so much. Just thinking about the deep feelings Leo pretended to have makes me feel utterly disgusted. I came to this foreign company, which pays great attention to my protection. Leo naturally can't find out, thank you, Amy, for suggesting this fake death idea to me in the first place. As for Leo loving me, he is worried that I will die without a will, worried that he won't be able to get my property. Amy listened to my answer. Who knows him, this is all his own doing, but that day he called to ask me, luckily I was clever. I replied, thank you, I should be back in no time, and we can meet then. Okay, take care of yourself abroad, goodbye. During my days abroad, I never regretted doing this. Here, I can also have my own life and live well. Just when I thought I could live abroad forever, Leo appeared. That day, the company held a team-building event, and I saw Leo and Cynthia arguing in the mall. Cynthia, how on earth do you do your work? This is such an important project, and you actually managed to mess it up. Leo's voice was low and angry, as if suppressing a tremendous rage. Cynthia retorted, I can't be blamed for everything. The project's issues aren't solely my responsibility, others in the team have made mistakes too. Don't make excuses. Leo stormed up to Cynthia. You are the project leader, and all the responsibility should fall on you. Look at you during this time, your mind has not been on work at all, you only know how to flirt with me every day. Now look what happened, the project has failed, and the company has suffered heavy losses. Cynthia suddenly let out a cold laugh. You keep talking about responsibility, but what about you? Do you really only care about the company's interests? Don't forget, when you were with Nina, wasn't it she who helped you solve so many problems at work? Leo's body trembled, and a hint of discomfort flashed across his face. She is indeed very capable, much stronger than you at work. Leo's voice unconsciously softened a bit, and a hint of nostalgia flickered in his eyes. If she were still here, this project would never have gone awry. She always managed to organize everything meticulously and consider every detail. Cynthia's body swayed. Leo, do you regret it now? What were you doing when you were sneaking around with me behind Nina's back? It's too late for you to regret it now, you deserve it. Leo was hit where it hurt, and he slapped back fiercely. You bitch, say that again? It looked like the two were about to fight. Nearby security came out, pulling Leo and Cynthia apart, ready to call the police. Leo looked up to the left. Nina. Leo rubbed his eyes and then ran towards me in disbelief. Am I not dreaming? It really is you, you're not dead. Leo looked at me, joyfully dancing with his hands. He excitedly wanted to hug me, but I took a step back, distant yet polite, and smiled gently. Leo, long time no see. Leo gazed at me dreamily, his whole face breaking into a smile. I knew you wouldn't die. Nina, I've been looking for you these past 2 years, I've been thinking about you. I looked at him with a calm expression from beginning to end. Thinking back to the past. Cynthia had a stomachache, and Leo immediately cancelled our date to be with her. When Cynthia and I fell into the water together, Leo threw me aside and went to save Cynthia first. He even claimed that I could swim and wouldn't die. Cynthia is important. It's utterly ridiculous. Even if I'm foolish, I can't possibly be deceived any longer. Leo, our relationship has long been completely over. The moment you decided to leave me for Cynthia, we were done. And I am living well now, you might as well consider me dead. Cynthia saw Leo running to the side, and as her gaze followed, she saw me. Cynthia slowly walked up to me. How is this possible? Didn't you die? Why are you still alive? Are you here to laugh at me? I glanced at Cynthia. Having a brain is a good thing, but if you lack intelligence, that's your fault. Stay away from me, just looking at you makes me feel sick. Leo saw Cynthia coming over and thought it was because Cynthia wasn't getting back together with him. Nina, I have nothing to do with Cynthia, and I'm not even married to her. As long as you return to my side, I will kick Cynthia far away, so she can never appear in our sight again. Cynthia saw Leo trying to push her aside and got anxious. Nina, you can't really believe that, can you? Leo was with you entirely because of your wealth, didn't you know? Leo saw Cynthia looking fearless, clearly ready to go all out. Nina, what she said was just to sow discord between us. She only approached me because she saw my career taking off. It was her idea for me to take over your assets. Nina, don't believe her. Cynthia watched Leo push everything onto her and directly stated the reason why I have not had children since getting married. Nina, you still don't know, do you? The reason you haven't had any children since you got married is Leo. He has been using contraception all along. Otherwise, how could you possibly not have children? Ha ha ha. Shocked, right? The person you've loved for so many years has never let you have a child. Should we say you're lucky or pitiful? Ha 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 ha. I actually knew it a long time ago. On the day I fell into the water and went to the hospital, I knew it. Leo looked at Cynthia, who seemed a bit crazy at the moment, took a step back, and said to me, Nina, don't believe her. I love you so much, how could I do something like this? Trust me. When Cynthia saw the police rushing over, she suddenly let out a sharp laugh and dashed into the back kitchen of a nearby store. Before long, she burst out holding a knife. She waved the knife, screaming hysterically at the people around her, It's all your fault. It's all your fault that I suffered. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to make you all pay. Her voice was sharp and distorted, filled with resentment and anger. The surrounding crowd was frightened and retreated in panic, letting out waves of terrified screams, and the scene was in chaos. Suddenly, Cynthia's gaze locked onto Leo, who was closest to her, a glint of mad killing intent flashing in her eyes. She held, charging at Leo like a crazed beast. Leo's face instantly turned pale, instinctively wanting to dodge. At that moment, the police officer reacted swiftly, taking a quick step forward, firmly grabbing Cynthia's wrist, and forcefully twisting it to take the knife from her hand. Cynthia let out a desperate scream, struggling to break free from the officer's grip. Leo leaned against the wall, gasping for breath, his face filled with the relief of having survived a disaster. He slightly raised his head, searching the crowd with his gaze, and when he saw me, his lips trembled. Nina, however, just at that moment, the already unhinged Cynthia erupted with a force from nowhere, breaking free from the police's grasp. She rushed towards Leo like a gust of wind and pushed him hard. Leo, caught off guard, fell alongside Cynthia towards the stairway, and both of them tumbled down to the first floor. Watching Cynthia and Leo roll into the first floor, it would be a lie to say I wasn't shocked. I walked down the stairs, looking at Leo lying in a pool of blood. It seemed Leo was saying I'm sorry, I love you. Another year has passed, and I have been abroad for almost 6 years. Today, I set off on the journey back home. My mood is exceptionally light. Upon returning to the country, I received a letter from lawyer Leo. Nina, by the time you read this letter, I may no longer be in this world. Once, I thought Cynthia's appearance brought me a new love, but I overlooked you, who had always been by my side, giving me everything. I recklessly squandered your true heart, and it was only after losing you that I realized the unforgivable mistake I had made. If there is an afterlife, how I wish to meet you again. This time, I will not be swayed by the temptations of the outside world, I will hold your hand tightly and never let go. I want to watch the sunrise and sunset with you, to walk through every stage of life together, and to make you the happiest woman in the world. As for the assets under my name, they were originally accumulated by me desperately for the so-called future, but now it seems they are all meaningless. I have already made a will, leaving all my property to you. This money cannot make up for the harm I have caused you, but at least it can help make your life a little better. I hope you know that in the final moments of my life, I regret so much, and I wish I could go back to the past and love you again. Please forgive me, and I hope you find someone who truly loves you and have your own happiness. Leo, farewell. I put away this letter and placed it in front of the candle until it burned out. I walked to the window and looked at the crowd below. I don't need any of this anymore.